Well, here we are doing another episode of the Saturday Artist Live Interview Podcast, episode 12. And today I'm talking with Becky. Man, I'll have her introduce herself because I completely spaced on her last name. But here we go. I'm going to invite her now.
All right, so why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Rebecca Anderson. I'm a local artist that mainly works in watercolor. I also absolutely love to make jewelry and crochet and dabble in so many different things like so many different artists do. So you can find me under Knox 1984 is the name of my business, or Becky Bobs or Rebecca, jack of all trades and names.
So let's just jump right into it. What got you started on art?
Oh gosh. When I was a kid, that's just what I would do. I remember specifically wanting to make like a little book of art when I was really young. First time I saw like Nightmare Before Christmas, I wanted to do the like mini shrunken heads, and I thought like dark art was really cool. And to be also, gosh, Ren and Stimpy and all of the different influences that I really, really loved growing up as well really made me want to be part of that like wild and crazy culture of art. It changed my life, and it became quite a zen thing for me that I was like, I always did it. And then I started doing more in different fields as I got older because it was I wouldn't say something to do, but me and my grandma got together when I was 11, and we'd get together once a week, and she would have me try a different craft. So one week it would be crocheting, and then the next week it would be painting, and then beading and sewing. And her hopes were that I would fall in love with one. Yeah. I mean, it keeps me out of trouble, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Art
Yep.
is a full-time hobby.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
if you're not, if you're just anytime you start it, it just becomes your entire life at some point.
Oh,
So
exactly.
no matter, even if you're not trying to like become like an artist per se, it's like if you get into it, it just consumes everything.
Oh, for real. It's funny how it's changed so many of my habits. Like, I don't watch a lot of TV. I might have it in the background every once in a while, but it's more how can I adhere to something that is cohesive with me doing art instead of,
Mm.
oh, I want to watch this TV show. I find like just kicked a lot of things out the door because I was like, this isn't going to work for me. I want to be doing this more than I want to be doing that.
Yeah.
This is more and it's also just more profitable for my heart, I guess. I don't know
Hmm.
how else to explain it. It's like, this is my beating heart. This is the line of where my soul needs to be and what I need to be doing. And when I'm doing it, I feel so amazing. And when I'm not, that's when I start to feel the static of life, of like, oh,
Yeah.
existential dread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely understand.
Oh, yeah. Here, I'm gonna bop this down just a little bit. There. Perfect. Yeah, so it's fun. I love doing art. Yeah, but been doing it ever since I was a little kid. And in high school, started crocheting when I was 11, and in high school, I started selling like my jewelry and my crocheted items to my friends to raise money for dances and things I wanted to do and go to. If I wanted to go to Roller Valley or things like that, it was like you raise the funds for it yourself and you figure out how to make that work for you. And so it was like if I wanted to do things, I had to be able to hustle and make the money myself. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, so it's kind of interesting how that fed one into the other of where I am today of like, you do it, and then how can I also share this with the people around me?
Hmm.
So, yeah, yeah. But my art, I didn't sell for a really long time. It was for me. It was my Zen, my thing. So it's been really interesting for me to branch out in that and like, because it's so personal.
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah, my art is different than the jewelry that I make, than the crochet items that I make. a piece of my soul. And it's hard to let go of when you're selling them, or even when you're creating something that you're bonding with and you remember where you were at in that headspace and that time. But I started to have a disconnect, which was extremely helpful, of when I'm creating something or when it's finished. I have to accept that this is not for me and this is not mine. This is for the viewer and this is for the world. And yeah, like trying to take a step back from that to go, people deserve to see this. That's why. And I want to, it started, I guess, when I started doing a lot more vendor shows with my art. To see people's reaction to my art, oh, it's so beautiful just to see what they see, to see what their interpretation of it is, to see what memories it brings back for them. I've heard some of the most amazing stories because of it. And it's like, it's also a huge reminder why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like, it inspires other people and it sparks flame and passion, and I love that. I absolutely love that. But that's also why I love to get prints of my work, because it's really difficult for me to go, this is going to be the one and only place that this goes. Oh,
Yeah.
Like, I want more people to see it. I want more people to be able to enjoy it. So yeah, I definitely am an advocate for getting prints done of your work, for sure.
How would you describe your style? Because it's very unique.
I hate this question because of that. So when I switched over to watercolor, a lot of things changed because I've had kind of an underlining style of the, of the, say, creatures or the imagination that comes through me. I don't think it comes from me. It's definitely something that comes through me, and I'm able to let the paper be what it wants to be. That's why it's really hard for me to do, say, like custom or things along that line, because I'm like, I've done that before, and it took 3 attempts of a massive painting to get what the customer wanted. But the first one turned out to be one of my favorite paintings I've ever done. But it's funny how it kicks it back. Because, yeah, working in watercolor and the stylization that I am creating, I feel like it's exactly that. It's highly technical and textured, even though it's flat, which I enjoy about that and the relationship with the paper. But I don't, it's almost like I've been trying to create my own style. Like, I've purposefully not overexposed myself to things or compared myself to other people. I try really, really hard to be an inspiration for myself and an advocate for myself and what I'm doing, because it is so different than what you see.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's really hard when you're like, but nobody else looks like this, or nobody else is doing it like this, and it's like, yeah, but it works for me, and that's what matters. Because I work a lot off of imagination and how I think something looks. So I've been doing preliminary sketches, or, oh God, like mainly it's like the inspirations too, of sometimes it comes from a conversation that I might pull in, or just where my attention gets grabbed really is the main thing for me, of paying attention where I feel myself paying attention. And that's an interesting fact too, of like what is speaking to my heart that's incorporated into my art, and pulling all of these different references into one. And then also the freedom to let the paper be what it wants to be. I often think, like, my hardest work's like trying to redo it over and over and over again when it's like it just doesn't look right. When it's like, okay, what if instead of trying to force, I let it be what it's going to be, and then create another one maybe slightly altered or different. I'm loving that. I'm seeing artists do almost like the same paintings but altered, or the same theme but altered, and I feel like that's such an amazing and great practice. It's something that I almost feel like is carried over from like tattoo artists doing the same one over and over again, and then changing it, doing it different, or whatever it may be, and then becoming like a series. And it might just be me because I'm slowly getting into that, and it's, like super intriguing to me because of that. And yeah, it's something that it's just, yeah, it's really, really cool. But I find when I'm forcing, I have to stop, take a step back. I also have to be willing to completely ruin a piece.
Yeah.
I have to be 100% willing to fuck up and be like, oh, I just ripped a hole in this. I work a lot with my hands, with my pieces, and I've been like this close to ripping massive holes or things along that line. And the different techniques that I use too are sometimes like just 100% experimental, which the reason why I enjoy being so experimental with my work too is because there's a lot of pressure on it's supposed to look this way. And when you're using different techniques to tie that in, I really implore new artists to do new techniques, because it's no longer about what it's supposed to look like, and it's about the beauty of the process and how it's unique to you. So splattering the paint, or using different mediums like salt or soaps, or rubber cement or masking tape, or like putting multiple layers of tape down, pulling them off, throwing some paint down, and like seeing where it can take you and paying attention to the process. Some of like the biggest mistakes that I've made turned out to be the coolest stuff. I remember working on a piece, and I did the front, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna mess around and like experiment with the back. So I turn it over and I do this really wicked drawing all of the back. And I had painted it first and like did this whole layering process, and then I went to seal coat it, and I seal coated it, and I go to double check it like an hour or two later, and it bubbled up. And yeah, it was just, I was like, I ruined it, I know. And then I was like, wait a minute. And I popped the bubbles off, and I sanded them down, and then I put a coat of polyurethane on it, and it looked so cool. And I was like, this is even better. This is even better than it was before. So I feel like giving that like freedom to like go, yeah, I messed up. But I'm learning, and I'm learning in the process. What do I like about this? What do I not like about this? If I'm going to continue doing this, what avenue would I take differently? But it takes doing it over and over again as well.
Repetition is key.
Oh, it's huge key. And it's also, we can be very self-defeating, of it was supposed to be like this, it didn't turn out like this, I don't like it. Sometimes it's not about if you like it or not. I mean, I hate to say that, but like remove yourself from that, because some of my paintings that I was like, oh, this is not good, I still got prints of, I still sold, and they were some of other people's favorites.
Yeah,
and
I've had a couple like that. I'm like, I don't even like this. You like it? Okay, have it.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, we can be our biggest critic and our biggest judge, and we also need to be our biggest cheerleader.
Yeah.
Of like, that's okay. Like, it's okay that I messed this up. Try again, or learn, what did I learn from it in the process? Another time, I was doing a show at Riverfront Park. It was for Earth Day. It's a beautiful day, absolutely gorgeous, and I had like my paintings. I'm trying like new setups each time I'm doing vendor too. Also, don't allow yourself to be stagnant. Try new stuff. Try new ways to set things up. Try new avenues, because the best way to figure out what's going to work is trying things that are different, that are new to you. Yeah. So I tried a new setup. I had used a hanging rack for clothes and then used the like double hangers to hang my paintings. And it looked really cool. And they were able to like twist, and you could see the fronts and the backs. And then I had my jewelry on a table, and it's going fantastic. And then all of a sudden, bam, winds come in, rain's pouring down out of nowhere. The whole rack gets thrown to the ground. And I was like, oh. And you pack up as fast as you can when that happens. Like pretty much things are starting to get wet. We need to. So a couple frames had gotten banged up and messed up. And I was just like, oh gosh, like that is such a bummer. Like that is such a waste. And then I was like, well, wait a minute. What if? And I sanded them down, and I redid them, and I put like, I do this like special lettering type. I call it like a subconscious flow of where my hand goes. I just let it go as I'm having, say, a series of thoughts go through, and I'm doing it on the edges, and I'm like, oh my gosh, wait a minute. And then I've done like work in houses and stuff, and like, so I know the different processes of sealing. So I'm like, okay, cool. Do a polyurethane finish on it. And I was like, wait a minute. Not only did I fix it, it looks better. And I could have just thrown it away. I could have just been like, oh, it's trash because it's not perfect anymore. And like striving for perfection is not realistic. It's not realistic. And
perfection is an ideal. It's something that we think about that you can never actually have in reality. There's nothing is perfect.
No. And actually the beauty in imperfections is where it's at. I feel like whenever you fall in love with somebody's personality or their traits or different things along those lines, it's usually those little quirks that they have.
It's the things that separate them from everyone else.
Yeah.
It's the thing that makes you different.
Yeah, exactly. And we're kind of get wrapped up in a world where we're supposed to be like everyone else. We're supposed to be domesticated and to fit in. When it's like the most beautiful thing that we can do is to not fit in, to be ourselves, and to allow ourselves, gives ourselves permission to be who we are meant to be. And be awkward and weird and understand that, like there are bounds in all of that, but it's something special when you can just allow yourself to just be and not have to like correct yourself in that and like worry so much about what other people think. And it's like,
most of the time people are only focused on themselves anyway, so it's like they're not thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves, so don't worry about what they think of you, because like it's going to be like for 3 seconds like and then they'll move on. You don't need to like be so self-conscious.
Yep. Well, and it's even deeper than that as well, as like even if they were thinking of you, it's going through a filter of their own perception of what their connections are with that. So if you're trying to control someone else's perception of you, that is actually, you can't. Because my understanding of, say, love or artists or like even my own personal connections to words is because of my experience in the past. Everything gets filtered by our perceptions. So it doesn't matter. But the more that you can just be you and be in that moment, and we also change moment to moment too, and giving ourselves that beauty of being fluid with it, the more that you are free. And it's something that I used to be so like, oh, what do they think of me? What kind of idea am I giving off, or worrying about what people might think, or even projecting of, I don't want to give the wrong impression. And it's like, you have no power over impression. You have no power.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's like, why would you worry and stress about something that you honestly can't control in the first place? And it's the illusion of control. Then. So
we love the illusion of it. So speaking of perception, what is your perception of what makes something art? Because like this is like a kick I've been on for like a couple weeks now. Well, I've been on it for like all my life, like what is art? But asking people recently, like, do you think there is a non-art object? Is everything art? Or because there's so many different theories and ways of looking at objects that humans create as art.
Well, it depends.
So to you, what makes it that?
Yeah, what avenue you're kind of attacking it at. Are you going for the definition of what art is? Are you going for there's a lot to it, because for me, it's my beating heart and soul. It's me dancing while I'm going on walks. It's me looking at the sunshine and smiling and seeing how beautiful the day is. It's me turning my life into a romance as best as I can. It's me having life as a dance and being able to see the beauty that is completely surrounded, and that creativity and that flow. And I feel like art is one of those things that is it's a soul. It's a soul vibration. So it's unique to each individual and where they are coming from in that approach. Because I have people that tell me, oh, I can't even draw a stick figure. I'm no artist, or I can't create art. And then I start asking them about what they do and what their passions are or their hobbies. And I'm like, you are very artistic, you are very creative, because then it also brings in what are the other words that go behind art.
Yes.
Is it creativity? Is it like, what is the baseline? And so that's where it starts to get muddy, because then it's like we're looking for a definition for something that might not necessarily have a definition, that is so encompassing. The human language is very interesting in that regard, because there are so many emotions that are felt behind things that do not have words for them. So it's like, it's more of what is, and I get that, what is art to you, to the individual? And that still feeds back into the perception of each person's unique understanding of it. I mean, shoot, like, is it that a banana taped to a wall is not art because I don't think that's fair? Or is it not art because, you know, or is it art because that's so fucking clever? There's some things out there that are so
It communicates.
clever.
It makes people think.
Yep. Yeah, and that's another thing. Does it make people think? Or, you know, how are they reacting to it? Or, you know, there's so much. So not a clear answer by any means.
Well, I mean, is there, I have my own personal opinions, which I'm not going to voice because I'd rather ask people theirs at this point and just kind of learn. But I forgot where I was going with this. What were we talking about 5 seconds? Okay, my brain's just going like I had too much coffee and now like it's 1 cup and it's too much and now I'm overthinking everything quickly.
Yeah, no, it's what is art to people? Yeah. But then I feel like that also feeds into, people get worried about, well, would people consider this art? And that starts to plant a seed of judgment, and that starts to plant a seed of doubt, and that starts to plant, because we're asking other people what is art to them, when really it's like, what is art to me? What does it mean to me? And what is the beauty that I find in it? Poetry, there's just, I mean, I think the fog in the air is art. The ambiance of nature, the beauty that I get to see every day surrounding me, I can't ever fail because of that. And sometimes it's really, really important to remember that as much as we have these huge goals and aspirations and these like doom and gloom fears of where things might go, or, you know, it's like, instead taking the time to recenter, refocus, realign, and really take that into consideration of the little things, like just sitting and looking at the bark on a tree and the bugs that walk by, and the time and space in that just disappears, and all the definitions of what that is or what it is, that disappears too, and just appreciating the beautiful, it being beautiful. We really get lost. I call it lost in the sauce of what it is that we think other people will think is art. And as much as I would and can try to explain, it's my beating heart that feels it and sees it, and that's like the most important thing to me to stay true to, instead of going, well, what do you think, or where should I, or like what, you know. And it's hard because, I mean, when you're in the business of selling, you have to take that into consideration. Yeah. But it's another thing, the more that I go with my own heart and the things that I find interesting and the things that I find really cool, and that's what I'm painting, that's what I'm doing, the things, because you have passion, you have intent, and you have integrity behind it. And that changes. I feel like that changes a lot all of a sudden. You're no longer just going along the lines of what you think you should be producing. Because I worked in a jewelry shop downtown. I was there for 6 years. I became the jeweler. That was my job, was to make things that I thought would sell. And it was great, but it got me very stuck in that mindset of creating for production purposes instead of
commercial, rather than expression of self.
Yes, yes. And that's exactly why I made my art mine, because I didn't want to the first word that comes to mind is like defile it like that. I didn't want to, but then when I changed my perspective of, well, if I'm creating to share, This is not for me. I'm not creating because I'm trying to make a buck. I'm creating because it speaks to my soul, and when I get to see it speak to someone else in such a beautiful way, that matters. That matters a ton. And I want to keep these things alive. That's really important to me as well. I love to do live paintings, and I love to open up about my techniques, the process that I use, or teaching people how to make jewelry, how to crochet, how to even get past the blockages in our own heads about what is stopping us from these things. I often hear, oh, I haven't painted. I'm not an artist because I haven't painted in a month or two. Like, you don't have to be constantly producing to consider yourself a creative or an artist or anything like that. You are not a machine. You are an organic living being that needs your soul fed as well. And when we kind of get caught up in the production instead of the process, it really jumbles you. Like, it really, and it can shake you pretty hard. And that's why I feel like a lot of people have that, what am I doing this for, moments. And then you have to be constantly checking in with yourself and refocusing and realigning yourself. Your own mind can be your best friend or your worst enemy. So, yeah, for real.
So I remember, if I remember correctly, some of your stuff is based on Lovecraft's, some of his short stories and things.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I find that fascinating. Because it's very similar in styles. Because if I remember correctly, he was kind of channeled his work, and you do the same.
Yeah. I don't think that the things that interest us are by accident by any means. That's why I feel like it's exceedingly important that if something really grabs your attention, pay attention. If something is very speaks to you, and I also don't feel like we meet people by accident either, even just bumping into someone on the street, and that's where that came from. It was really amazing. I was not very good at reading, and when I started reading H.P. Lovecraft, it opened me up to not only becoming a better reader, I started reading out loud, and that was something I fell in love with. I'm like, oh, I want to get into like audiobook reading or something along those lines, but then it's like you got to check yourself, like you can't fucking monetize everything. But his work is just so, it allows the reader to use their imagination to such a high extent. Not only that, but exactly, it's different, unique to him, and then to find out about his life in the background is very interesting stuff as well. The pains of an artist, for sure. And how it is very much, sometimes there's things in this world that we do not understand. And we do not understand the background and the flow of it. And it did open me up to understanding that that's okay. We don't have to explain ourselves constantly or have an explanation. We can sometimes just be a conduit for what is coming through. And to have that and to start to shift my understanding. Not only that, but dude, like, his writings is so beautiful. I would always say that he is a writer that could write in one paragraph what Stephen King does in 3 pages. And he actually inspired Stephen King to become a writer. But being able to, it was my first experience with like a story that inspired me to kind of try to bring the world of that alive. It was really cool to see how that came across. And that story is like, because it's The Haunter of the Dark is one of my favorites also to listen to on YouTube. Make sure that you get the version that's got all the bells and whistles, the background ambiance, and those are the best. I'm a huge fan
Radio
of like
theater. Awesome.
Yeah, that's my favorite is radio theater. It's so cool. It's so cool. I feel like it opens up so much. That way you're also, your mind is going with it.
Yeah.
And it's not, like, I'm not bound to, like, visually. It's creating such a spark of imagination of where I think this story lies, and where I, you know, like every time I listen to him too, I hear and pick up something different, which is really awesome as well. It's like when you see a movie, you know every single word to it, and you know every single like scene in it, and the songs, and like I definitely, that speaks to me as well. But that like the radio theater and the old time radio shows just are as powerful, and the static in the background, the whole nine of it is just something that is phenomenal. And so yeah, I got into him, and that was something that was there's nobody like him. I really treasure and adore different artists that allow themselves to be the absolute insane weirdos that they are, the absolute unique quirks that they are, the allow people to come in and say, ugh, that is, somebody considers this art, or this is how, and it's like, yeah, I made that. Like, I don't know, it's everybody has their own opinion about everything, and when you are so uniquely you in that aspect, it's no longer, I feel like, when there's nothing to compare it to, that's my goal. Like, you know, that's what I want out of my work, is that it
true
is
innovation and imagination.
Yep, yeah. It is so truly ingrained in me that it's like, even when I take something that is, say, incorporated from something else, you can see my stamp on it. You can see my style in it. You can say, oh, that's a Rebecca Anderson piece. That's Becky's stuff. And it's recognizable. And I think that's what I feel like a lot of people strive for, to have their own little, their style, their catch, their thing, their niche of, this is what represents me in my style. And so and you have to like really give yourself the freedom for that. Yeah. And we let the judge and jury go. Something that I would suggest to anyone in the work of this is, take care of your mind, take care of your body, take care of your soul. Those things come first. Everything else that comes after is so much more, I would not say bearable by any means, but I would say freeing. You know, like, I know that when I'm taking good care of my body, I feel better, and I can create, and I can be there and be present, and also do the things that I love. And I love to be outdoors and hike. So that is the key background behind it. If you give yourself a why, you know, like, then you can do anything. Like, I got in really good shape because I wanted to do peak hikes, because I wanted to go out and play in the mountains and raft and do all these crazy things that I aspired to do. I started taking care of my mind because I no longer wanted to put up with my own bullshit anymore. I struggle pretty bad with self-deprecation, with depression, with anxiety, and things along those lines, and they can devour you.
Definitely.
Yeah. And to be able to find your breath in those moments and to calm your mind. And it gives you freedom as well. And especially when the going gets tough, essential. If you're trying to build and grow, you have to have foundation to build and grow off of. And part of that is the psyche, huge. And when I started my journey, none of us know what the fuck we're doing. Nobody knows what they're doing, first off. And be okay with that. We're all trying to figure it out. And we're going to fail, and we're going to make mistakes. And it's about finding our stride. Now, do not let yourself also become complacent. You're going to get bored. And when you get bored, you're going to start to stir up trouble in your own life. So that's why we create more goals, even little goals, and keeping little promises to yourself. Be it, I want to wake up at 9 and do 10 push-ups every day. Start with little baby promises. It's really important, because you're building that within yourself of, I keep promises to myself. I am a woman of my word, or a man of my word, or whatever it may be. And then when you start to build that, the outside need for any kind of praise, or the outside need for not being told, like, being judged. It's not as detrimental. It's really like, I know what I'm doing this for. I know where my heart stands in all of this. It doesn't matter anymore. I get personally really caught up sometimes of, well, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, or this is what this is supposed to look like. And then I'm like, dude, no, I've known for a long time that my journey is not the same as so many people's journey. And the fluidity of who I want to be and what I want to do is not the same either. And we make big mistakes, or we also make big accomplishments, but it's you see them as the same. I feel like now, because happiness and sadness is two sides of the same coin, and that's not exactly what we're looking for is happiness. What we're looking for is inner peace. I want to have cultivated inner peace, that when I'm at my highest highs and I'm at my lowest lows, I can find that main vein in me that is my breath, that is recentering, and that is refocusing. If anybody's out there like that has trouble with panic attacks, has trouble with anxiety, depression, things like that, they know the feeling of the sinking stone. And that's the same as the rising one. As we are doing amazing, great things, and we're rising up, we might not take the time to look around, readjust, and reassess where we're at, to go, I want to be my best self, bringing myself to these things. I want to be my best self, and we'll overcommit, overstretch ourselves, and to all of a sudden go,
Let's say you have to re-say that it started breaking up.
Just when we're really happy too, we can make really bad decisions. And when we're really happy and like we're, like that feeds in just the same. And so it's like when you're going down or going up, I feel like there are a list of questions that you always need to be continuing to ask yourself. There are things like that are always a baseline that need to be happening in your life. And then when you start to see things fall off, that's when it's like refocus, readjust. Have your weekly goals, have your daily goals, have your monthly goals, have your yearly goals. I was never really a huge forward thinker, and I've become more and more of a forward thinker as far as it comes to this step leads to that step. What are my intentions? I feel like in our 20s, I'm personally in my I'm 38, and so it's like in my 20s I lived my life. A lot of you just do and you go, and I didn't feel like there was a massive amount of, say, intent behind it. So back then when people are like, oh, what inspired this piece, or what, where's your love and heart and drive, it was like, I just do. I didn't reflect a lot of where this was coming from, or take the time to, why did this speak to my heart? What was it about this? And now taking that time, I see it's so wild to see like the beauty and appreciation I can have for myself then, because I'm reflecting on and falling in love with these things all over again as I'm sharing them with other people. And that's why I also feel like it's really important. It's hard as an artist because we're like, it is a piece of me. It is a part of my life and my love. And then to share it with people, and they might say, ooh, that doesn't matter, because there's so many people that do appreciate it. And not only that, we're not everyone's, like, I'm not for everyone, and I understand that, and my art's not for everyone. And to be able to put that to the side and go, but it's for some people, that matters. And that you're even attempting in the first place. It's really interesting when you start to look into the statistics of people that tried and then they failed once and then never tried again. Or they wanted to really, really bad and then they never did. And we often go, well, if I had the perfect circumstances, if it was the right time, I can't find time or make the time. When it's like, if there's things in our life that are just as important as eating, it's just as important as brushing my teeth. And when you change that perspective of the importance of something in your life and the benefits of it, it changes a lot. That is one of the biggest things that I do here is I don't have the time, and I do that to myself as well, where I'm like, I'm just too busy today. I didn't, and it's like, yes, but think of it like this. You deserve an hour of your own time to dedicate to yourself.
Yes.
This is our life. And if there's things like I've started also, okay, if I don't have the time, how can I sub out things? So instead of listening to music all the time, I'm listening to some of my favorite inspirational speakers. I'm listening to some of my favorite beautiful, say, be it podcast, or 9 times out of 10, it's an inspirational speaker. I feel like that is something that when I started the whole game of like I am statements and things like that, I felt a little cheesy. And then the more I did it, like, I can do it. I'm amazing. I can, like, it's so empowering. But that can only go so far, because what you're doing is, if you have this brings up a whole new can of worms. But if we can tap into our subconscious and that's where the power lies, of like changing your values, changing your beliefs, changing your inner dialogue. If you're really, really struggling, start looking into that. Start looking into how you can hack your own brain to change that. One of the first ways I did it was listening to stuff while I was sleeping. That changed. Yeah, it was like, it's so cool, because or you can get into binaural beats. That was another one that I really got into.
I make some of those too.
Oh, cool. That's so you make them? Like, you make them yourself? That's wicked. I love it.
I'm mad. I'll have to show you. Well, I mean, I guess I'll bring headphones or something like that, so that way you can listen to them. Yeah. But it's all on my old computer, so that's there.
That's amazing. And that's something that it's like, one of the most beneficial things that I do when I'm painting is to put on like a binaural beats focus or something along those lines. And I'm realizing as I do it, I love it when I'm by myself. If I try to go live and I'm doing something along those lines, it does not work. It does not work. And I love music too. Like, I get to move around, I get to shake and, things like that. But you find what works for you. Binaural beats, though, yeah, if you're ever interested, I would absolutely love to use some of your binaural beats, either during a live or just for me while I'm producing myself. Like, that's really cool. I love it. I dig that a lot. So yeah, super beneficial for the brain when you start to get into that stuff. And I like to find out, because it was like, how can I make this work for me, and how can I change my life? Because it wasn't just when you want to change and make a big change, it's repetition, most definitely. Yes. Like, you have to create new, healthy habits. You also have to have the patience and grace with yourself to realize that takes time. You're still going to default to your defaults, especially when like there's huge chaotic or huge good things. Like, either way, you're always defaulting to your defaults. So when you're trying to change your default setting, it's like saying, oh, I don't eat ice cream anymore, but you used to eat ice cream every day. So of course you're going to, first of all, crave it. And second of all, you might even we're on autopilot 95 to 99% of the time. So that's another thing to take into consideration, is like, oh, I'm only doing what I've been trained myself to do. We are an accumulation of our yesterdays. I am my daily habits. If I want to change my life, I can't do it like a Band-Aid. I can't do it overnight. You're not going to get a six-pack overnight. Think of it like that too. The difference is when we change our physical body, you see those changes. When you're changing your mental health, it's hard to see those changes, because, as I say, have the conversations with people. You have to be able to reflect those changes in your life. And one of the biggest things I really love is look around you. Look at your circumstances and look at the people that are around you. That's also going to tell you where you're at. Mm-hmm. If you're having very fruitful conversations and you are in the thick of what you want to be a part of, or even just beautiful people that you're supporting each other, and that's where you want to be, that is a reflection of you and where you want to be or what you are doing. Now, if that's not the case, what's the hardest thing is setting your new boundaries for yourself and for other people.
Yeah.
setting like these circumstances aren't going to work for me anymore. This situation is not going to work for me. And it's hard to have those conversations, and it's hard to walk away or to say this does not serve me. But that's the most important thing, is serving your soul and yourself. And we evolve from each other as well. We have our seasons with each other, with places, with things, with everything in this world, our own interactions. And it's really hard to stop ourselves and go, wait a minute, is this helping or hurting me?
Mm-hmm.
And go from there and make those hard choices of,
especially things that you enjoy that hurt you in the long run. Because you enjoy the daily ritual and it feels good for a little bit, but you know over time that accumulation, it's either wasting your time, taking away your focus from what you want to actually get to, or it's wasting your money or your health. And like those are the things that hit that dopamine that really just feels so good, especially when you do it at the same time every day. You know? Yeah. Those are the hardest things I think are to change. But once you do get away from that and you can focus on what you actually want, everything just starts clicking really quick. Yeah, well, and when that happens, it helps me to go, okay, these are dopamine hits. I'm looking for serotonin. Yes. I'm looking for something that's sustainable. So when you create good habits that are sustainable, at first it is so hard, and it is something that you really have to knuckle down on. God, don't also overload your plate. Don't go, okay, I'm going to start eating healthy. I'm going to start working out every day. I'm going to start journaling every day. I'm going to start reading every day. I used to do that. That was one of my biggest fails. Like, it was just like, I'm overloading myself, and then you're going to beat yourself up because you're not accomplishing any of them. Start with one. Start with one little one. Yes. Get that one habit first, then start a new habit. Because then you won't have to think about that. It'll be automatic. You're not going to have to try to suffer through two things at once. Yes, exactly. And so it's those building blocks of the things that you need. And it also gives you the time and the reflection to go, wait a minute, this is not for me. I thought this would be helpful. I thought this is, this is not. Or, oh my gosh, this is amazingly beneficial for me. This is something that I've learned that this is a necessity now. So, for example, when I wanted to change my health and my body, I did not start out at the gym. I started out with my diet. And it was the daily habits because we are also dopamine chasers with our huge, oh my gosh, whenever I'm sad or upset, what do I want? Sugar. What do I want? And now though, I can stop and go, okay, do I actually want that? Am I actually hungry? Or like trying to make those good choices for my body as well, because I know that accumulates. If eating McDonald's every day made you feel the way that you did the next day instead of in 5 years, you wouldn't make that choice. And that's what's hard, is our daily choices, they're not accumulated the next day. It's years or months in the future. And that's why it's extremely important to cultivate good daily habits, even as small as they may be. And that's like, it's so beneficial. It's so beneficial. I got into meditation. I feel like meditation is something that is not, you use it when it's needed for you to recenter and refocus and get yourself back there. Some people, it works for them to do it every single day forever. And some people, for me, it helps me become back in the moment. It helps me remember how to calm my mind, because you can't ever really quiet your mind. Your mind's going to be, and it's all about ignoring that chatter rather than trying to get rid of the chatter. You're just not paying attention to it, just letting it be. Yeah. And that's the hardest fucking thing, is to just let go. Yeah. It's not about trying to silence the ego. It's just about letting go, focusing on one thing, inhale, exhale, and that's it. And then your mind's like, you know what, I could do it if I just time it like this, and then you start thinking about that. It's like, no, just breathe, just back to breathing. So what kind of meditations do you do? Do you do mindfulness meditation or visualizations? So
Oh, I do an array of different ones. I started out with mindful meditation, and there was a book that was given to me that was one of the most beneficial books that I've read, and I give it to everyone that I can. It's called The Issue at Hand, and it is a compilation of Buddhist essays. So they're very short, they're very nice, and oh my gosh, put a lot of amazing things into perspective. Very, very helpful book. But it was the idea of trying to quiet my mind, trying to get there. Actually, it was interesting how I was led the path to where I'm at currently, and just in the whole healing journey. Because if the steps weren't taken, I don't know, I wouldn't be able to do the things I'm doing, and they were serendipitous steps. It was definitely, you can say coincidences, you can say, but it was one feeds into the other. And I got into mindful meditation because of Chris Goen. He's got a practice called Blue Moose Meditation. Phenomenal man, such a sweet, kind heart. And we had actually started a paranormal activity group together, and then it got shut down right off the bat because of COVID. We had only gone on one, I know! Yeah, we went on one out and about. He has a spirit box. It was so cool. Like, I love the paranormal. I love all those kinds of things. And everybody has a story, and that's what's always really interesting to hear, is people's stories, or even you find out more about your town and the area and the history, and I find all of that so fascinating. And then it was interesting because that happened, and then I knew he was getting into meditation. And then it was the change in him that I saw. That was the draw. That he wasn't pushing that he changed. You saw that he changed. And I was like, I want that. And that's also what inspired me to, like, I aspire to inspire before I expire. Because it's not about telling people this is what you need to do to change your life. It's more about living it and letting them see. And if they're interested and they want to be a part of that, or they see that and they're inquisitive about it, that's when it's like, okay, let's have this conversation.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's another thing to remember too, is that right there. The right people come in all facets of life, be it the friends, the family, the customers, or like in everything. We definitely have experiences that we're meant to have. And if you can take the time, mindfulness meditation also taught me how to take the time to reflect in the moment. Because often our mind is going and chattering while we're having a conversation.
Yeah.
The person's talking and I'm not listening because I'm sitting here thinking about such and such, or what that means to me, or my interpretation of it, or anything. So it taught me to stop, listen, and meet the person where they are. So practicing, I did mindful meditation. I also love waking up and not wanting to get out of bed right off the bat. So I'll put on a guided meditation and I'll just lay there. And that's what I think is really interesting too. There's no structure of like, well, you have to be sitting in this pose, or you have to be doing this, or you have to be doing that. When it's like, no, it's what is best for you and what works for you. What is actually beneficial.
Yeah. There's hundreds of ways to meditate.
Mm-hmm. And there's hundreds of ways to do everything. And that's what's interesting to me too, is like there is no 10-step book that's going to change your life, because you have to find the 10 steps that work for you. There's going to be parts and pieces that are helpful, but some things that were insanely beneficial for me might not be what somebody else needs or wants, or it's like, this is pointless to me. So you have to be willing to be curious and be your own scientist with your life as well. Where's the draw? Where's the, and that's the willingness to fail. You hear that a lot with successful people. You have to be willing to fail. And that's the tough thing, is because we kind of get obsessed with time. Oh, I wasted all this time. No, did you learn? If you learn from it, you didn't waste anything. That's what this whole thing's about.
You have to have that self-reflection to be able, like you were talking about earlier, to be able to learn. Because if you don't self-reflect, you'll never learn, and you'll never know why you're not achieving what's in your head, that you anything that you can think of, you can achieve if you look at the steps and then take each step one at a time. Yeah. Because there's a destination. You can't just do things in like 5 seconds. Yeah. You know, I would love that if my mind could control the physical universe and just boom, I can manifest everything like that in like a couple seconds. Like, no, you think about it, you put out the steps, and then all you do is just focus on what's right in front of you, that next step, and then you'll be up at the top of the mountain before you even know it, and you won't even realize, oh shit, I just walked, 10 miles. Yeah. Because you weren't thinking about the end goal. You're thinking about, okay, I'm just gonna look at where I'm putting my feet now. Yeah.
Well, and something that just like you totally popped in my head is also everything looks like failure in the middle. Yeah. That's something to remember too. Not only that, we will be tested. How bad do you want something? How bad? Because I don't know how many times something has looked like complete and utter failure. And when I pushed past that and gave myself that like little baby taste of hope, like tears in my eyes, crying, like, why is my life like this? What is happening? And then just was like, just keep going. Just keep doing it. Keep having faith in yourself. Boom. It's like, there's the field of diamonds. There's many stories that are actually out there that are exactly that, where it's like, if you would have dug 6 more feet, you would have found what you were looking for. And that's sometimes it's exactly that, where we're so afraid and we're so scared of failing that we won't even attempt because the idea is so scary. But once I started having those conversations and giving myself permission, and also that's where that whole like mindfulness, taking care of yourself matters, because when we fail, some people do not take it well, especially if you like, depending on your background to it. Oh my gosh, failure for me is humongous. It's humongous to be, especially when it's like, I'm very hard on myself. I'm very like, you are going. If you have time for this, you don't have time. And like, I get really caught up in achievements instead of the process of the achievements. And that's why the reflection is insanely important, because you can achieve everything, and all of these, well, we can't achieve everything, but you can achieve anything.
You can try.
You can try. You can do anything, but you can't do everything. And that's where the key lies too, is like, I'm trying so hard, but if you're not giving yourself any credit and you're not celebrating it, what are the achievements for? And also, we got to remember, once you achieve something, then that's time to set new goals. So where's the longevity in that as well? What is it that you're actually trying to get out of it? Because that's your why. What is your why to doing this? And I love it when people ask me those questions, especially in times of doubt, because I'm like, I don't know. I thought, and then you remember, like, your thoughts and feelings, give them space, give them, like, we can drive ourselves mad with them. If you're enjoying yourself, be it you're working, and it doesn't matter what you're doing in this world, if you are enjoying yourself and you find that fulfilling, you are successful. Yeah. And that's what matters.
So connecting with the community will create the success for you, because as you were saying before, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. Yeah. So sometimes you have to put your ego aside and be like, I can't do this on my own. I need the experience of like my friend here that he's been doing this for 20 years. He's already like super good at it. I don't have to try to build my own website. I'll just ask him if he can help me with it. And then you pay them, of course, because you want to make sure it's equal exchange. But that's the whole thing. You like barter. Maybe you don't necessarily do it monetarily, but you can do something for them. You can give them a painting, but make sure that you have that community, because you can't do everything. So you need other people that can do other things. That way you can focus on what you want, and they focus on what they want, and you complement each other. You're like a harmony in a symphony, all coming together to make it work. And if it's just, the violin solo, it's like, yeah, that's pretty, but it's also kind of lame. You don't want to just hear just one thing going. You want to have the whole orchestra playing and giving that power.
I love that you brought that up. I absolutely love that you brought that up, because that's something that became so beautiful to me. I didn't know a lot about community and cultivating a synergistic relationship. When, you know, as an artist, you spend a lot of time in a room by yourself.
Yes.
And when I'm doing vendor shows, that's where my heart and soul, like I come alive. I love it. It's just so cool because I love people and I love chatting with them. And then when I started getting into being more involved, that took a lot too, of like putting yourself out there in situations. I remember coming to Mad Collab Studios for the first time, and I got my little backpack, and the thing was that I go there, and that was such an accident of like how everything happened, because I went to talk to Denny, and he about a job teaching at Lumen High School, Lumen High School for the Glow Children. And then next thing I know, I'm talking to Morgan about being an artist there. And the next thing I know, I'm sitting there for hours painting. And it was like one thing, and to also allow that too, to allow the flow of things. I remember sitting there and going, oh my God, what if they think I'm just an absolute nut job? They just met me and I'm just like, I'm already here, I'm painting, like what if, and all these things started going through my head. And if I would have acted on those things, because I kept on just having to go like, dude, you're fine. You're totally fine. And then little did I know that it was the exact opposite. Often our own perceptions of our situation or interpretations that we're projecting on other people, we get in our own way so much. It's fucking wild. But yeah, the community of it, and getting to meet so many different artists and getting to be a part of it. And like, I just went down and like did the First Friday walk, and it always invigorates me to talk to other artists and to also like, how can we be helpful for each other? I talked with a man last night, Paul, that was really cool, having that conversation of he feels stagnant, what can he do? And I was like, okay, these are the steps that you can take, because I have the knowledge of taking those steps. And I feel like that's so amazing and so important. Like, God, if I knew about hypnotherapy 2 years ago when I started trying to change my brain, dude, it would have saved me a lot of time. So, by the way, if you want to change your brain, get into hypnotherapy. You can do self-hypnosis. You can go to amazing practitioners around town. And if you ever wonder, can I be hypnotized? Well, think about one of your favorite foods, and does your mouth water? Then the answer is yes, you can be hypnotized. So, yeah, and like, the
hypnosis that you see in the movies is nothing like what real hypnosis is. No. It's not like immediate, okay, you're gonna sleep. There's a process, it takes time, but there are great effects from it.
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah. And that's an amazing positive thing too. But to get back on track, being a part of the community, going out, supporting each other. I think, we need to do that more. I love to share now. I love to share other people's stuff. I love to give suggestions of who my favorite people are. Oh, you need this? Connect you with that person. The small business and entrepreneurs group taught me a lot about that they do on Fridays at Mad, that how can we connect with each other? How can we create a flow of helping each other rise? Because I feel like in the entrepreneurship, you feel like you're a lot like by yourself, and you've got to trudge and you've got to put in your dues. And this is, like, you gotta do it all yourself, when it's like, no, the most amazing thing we can do is to do this together, to do this for and with each other, because there's so much more power in that too. Like, there's so much more power together. And when I'm having a hard time and I chat with somebody else that's in the same business as me, and they're like, dude, do you not see? Like, and then they help me. And like, even having those conversations and having somebody to bounce ideas off of, and like it opened up so many ways of like how I can be helpful for my community too. Of like, oh, I know of these resources now because I was willing to be involved with the community. I met more people that are doing the same thing that I'm doing, or completely different veins. That's another thing. You don't have to be doing the exact same thing. It's actually really cool to meet people in different fields that are trying to do the same vein. It's like we all have that underlining goal, and it's usually for betterment of ourselves and what we're trying to bring to the community. So that in common, just by itself, is is super powerful. And to have those conversations, that's one thing is the illusion of running out of time. Like, I don't have time for this conversation right now. I started making the time to sit down and have coffee with people, to sit down and have those one-on-ones. Even when I'm out on a walk, if I randomly end up talking to someone, if my brain goes, it's like, stop, breathe, be here in the conversation. What is this teaching you? And it usually like comes to such a beautiful fruition of an experience or a changing of someone's perspective, my perspective, seeing things in different ways, like being able to have that almost instant reflection as you're having that conversation is so valuable to me now. It's something that I wasn't able to do before because my mind was going, this is how I want to respond, before I've even listened to the full thing of what this person's saying. And it's just, to be able to be present and be there talking to people, listening to their passions. That's one of my favorite things too. Listening to the passionate about their passions is so cool. So cool. Yeah. So I suggest to anyone, if you're having a hard time, get out in the community. Like, that's something that is always, it always helps. It's so helpful. Have those conversations. Be honest too. I bet you're having a hard time. That's something that I feel like we are definitely taught to mask our failures. We're taught to mask our problems. We're taught I'm supposed to always be happy and always be okay. With absolutely not. There are days where I feel like I have it all together, and there's other days where I'm like, whoa, dude, whoo, I have nothing together. And on those days, I just try to make sure that I'm extra careful with myself. I give myself a little extra love and attention and care, instead of going, well, if you, and you should. It's like, no, just be a little bit nicer to me today. So, yep.
So before we wrap up, I want to make sure that we get out your website again and your store and all the info for you, so that way people can contact you. What's your stuff?
Yeah. So, so let's start with what's happening in the community. So tonight, Mad Cloud Studios is having the Reclaim show. I'm a part of that. You're a part of that. A lot of really amazing artists are a part of that. Doors open at 6. And that's tonight, Saturday, whatever today is, the 4th of February. So, yeah. And then let's see. There's the Christmas reception is happening on February 11th. That's where you get to meet and greet the artists that are there. I am the Spotlight Jeweler for the month, and super excited about that. Yeah, I love it. I love being able to be out there and have that going on. And then there's a group of us just hung art at the Wagon Wheel Wagon Wheel Whiskey Bar. It's a wine and whiskey bar that's next to their new event center. They just opened up an awesome event center that is open for bookings, things like that. And also right next door is this cute, beautiful little bar that, we just hung a bunch of art, my art. And then there's a list of different artists that, there's Ashley, there's Cassidy, there's Stevie, there's Taylor, there's Pink. So it was really cool. And that's another thing that's always working in the works. And then for me, I'm building my website right now, Knox 1984. It's probably Knox 1984 at square.com. Not 100% on the handle. And then my Instagram is Knox 1984 _ personal is Becky Bops, if you like to listen to, like, I like to share like my inspiration for the day or what I'm doing in different facets of my own personal life, which I feel like is helpful for a well-roundedness of like, this is the background to the art. And then on Facebook, I'm Rebecca Anderson, Rebecca with a CK, REBECKA. So yeah, I'm dipping my toes in a lot of different water right now to see, and I feel like that's important. Try different things, see what works for you, and then you don't have to commit yourself to everything. If there was something that you tried and it's not for you, you can try something new. That's another thing. I feel like we're like, well, I said I was going to do this, or this is what I thought that I wanted. Give yourself the freedom to change your mind. Like, that's something that's huge. Give yourself the freedom to change your mind and go, okay, I'm going to readjust and reevaluate, or this is the benefits that I got out of this, and this is what I've learned. And that's the thing that's really cool. It's like, if you're always learning, then you're doing something right. So yeah.
Very true.
Yep. Yeah, and then you'll see me a ton this summer doing all sorts of vendor shows. I love it. That's my.
I can't wait.
I love it.
Well, Becky, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, Ezekiel. I appreciate you. I appreciate that you're doing this for artists. This is so cool. I've already got introduced to artists that I was just being able to see them and see their passion and see their drive is not only inspirational, but I'm like, yeah, you get it. Like, it's really, really cool, and I love that you're doing this. And I love your work and what you do as well. Like, it's so cool, so cool. So thank you. I appreciate you.
No problem. We'll have to have you back on the podcast soon.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.